So we've reached the end of the afternoon. We're all that stands between them and a reception. I'd like to start, actually, this final panel with our poll. So please, again, take out your phone. This is the last poll I think that we'll end up taking. Is my question on there yet? Okay. So the question is, what is the most important consideration for you when you're buying a car? Design, speed and power, price, brand. But it would be great to have a sense of what that is. Design is actually my choice when I'm thinking about that too. No one here is about speed and power?
Well, I see job security in these results.
Right. So thank you very much for joining us, Alfonso. Alfonso is now the global head of design for Nissan. You were elevated to that position last year, which means that you oversee design of Nissan, Datsun, Infiniti, the showrooms, your offices. Do you design the business cards?
We have an older business card now, but when the new one comes, yes, it would be. It involves most of the visual aspects of our company.
Right. And you are also the first non-Japanese design director of Nissan, right?
Yeah, so very proud of all the Japanese car companies, actually. It was a pivotal, when I found out I was going to become head of design, it was humbling because the almost 100-year history of our company and so many innovations, and to now have that responsibility to bring us into the next century is daunting and exciting.
Right. Particularly at what I think is kind of a pivotal moment for mobility in the automotive industry in general. Just to give a little bit of background, Alfonso has been at Nissan since 1988. You joined right out of Pratt in New York, although you joined the studio in San Diego, I believe.
Yes.
Right. You're Cuban-American. And what made you, when you left Pratt, what made you think, okay, I want to join a global car maker as a designer?
Well, I was very happy in New York. I studied art and design, and had started working in the city and really enjoying that. And then I met the directors of the San Diego studio, and they talked about design in a very wide sense, like not just the object, it's the touching people, changing their lives, and Japanese technology and Japanese culture. At that time and today, it was so powerful in my life that I visited the studio, and I was surprised. It was like a little dream factory to be a car designer. Of course, you're rooted in so much reality. We want to deliver products that are safe and enjoyable and exciting, but all of these things are not easy.
Right.
But at the same time, you must stay almost childlike in your innocence, because you have to allow a new idea to come into your life, and then you have to find a way to express it on paper or in a computer. So it's heavy,
right,
but it's dreamy at the same time. So
that's a good way of putting it. So as this is a conference about the year ahead, can you tell us a little bit about what consumers can expect to see in 2019? What's most interesting to you, or what are you most excited about?
Well, I think 19 and 20, if I can a little bit adjust here.
Yes.
Because I'm coming on the second year. April is my second year. And first of all, after the shock of knowing I was going to be head of global design, Sayakawa-san starts telling me about the scope of my work, and 8 electric cars. Most car companies are getting to the point where they're launching one and joining us in this wonderful world of electrification. But 8, a lot of which are in the studio right now. It's heavy because it makes you think, as electric cars are bringing a new simplicity to the automobile from a mechanical point of view.
Right.
And so as a result of that, also, what does it mean to be Japanese in a world of electrification? What does it mean to be Japanese in the world of autonomy, to be Japanese in the world of connectivity? It's a shame I have to go to sleep at night because it's quite exciting.
Well, I'll come back to this topic of what does it mean to be both a designer and to be a Japanese car designer in the age of electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles. I do have to address, potentially what's the big elephant in the room at this moment, which is the arrest last month of the Nissan chairman, Carlos Ghosn, who's now, as we've discussed earlier today, in detention. I know that his arrest is not something that you can speak to directly, but I do have to ask, how does that affect your team? Does it affect your team? You lead 800 designers around the world. Is it a distraction?
I like the two words you've used because I do think there is a difference between affected, because this is healthy. We're human beings.
Right.
We've been on a journey for 20 years, and we are affected, probably emotionally, in a sense of what is the meaning of all of this. Distracted, I think, is a different kind of word because for the most part, Sayakawa-san has been CEO and a very hands-on CEO. Design reports directly to him. So my relationship with him and the understanding of his vision is quite intimate. So my team is aware of this. So we are super excited about the future. And it is an amazing time because currently Nissan, if you go to a Nissan dealership, we actually have the oldest portfolio by years.
What do you mean?
Just as a life cycle issue, it's a phenomenon that happens at times, which as a designer, that means our clay studios are full of the future. So not only the electrified cars, but the renewal of all the cars that are a little bit older. In the dealers, I have them in the studio, well over 20 programs. And we understand what we need to do. We need to express to the world that Nissan means technology, and we want to bring people to a better world. So, not distracted, affected.
Right. Actually, something you just said is something I've been curious about, which is as a designer, how far ahead are you working? Do you think in product years, or how do you even think about that? So the clay models in your studios now, we will see on the roads when?
Around 2020.
2020.
The ones that are in my clay studio, because I work virtual. Even my desk, I'm hooked to virtual reality, and it's how I stay connected to all my 8 global studios. But once we are in the clay, we have around 2.5 years left. But we are also helping the company understand what the potential for completely new cars are for 5 or 6 years down the road. So with Ivan Espinosa and Mr. Philip Klein, the head of product planning, we are dreaming up new scenarios, new possibilities, because the world actually demographically is changing constantly. And we have to keep exploring any possibility where Nissan and Infiniti and Datsun can really change people's lives.
Do you happen to know what percentage of Nissan cars at this point are electrified?
Well, right now it's the Leaf.
Right.
So, and we're doing nice. So over 350,000 units have been sold in the 2 generations. And for us, it's going to be obviously a significant ramp up as after 2020-ish, I can't say if I want to have a job after this interview. But very soon we start.
It's just us.
It's just us.
It's just us. You can share.
Yeah. Right. So we will start on the expansion. So in Detroit, we've already shown a kind of crossover EV, which is super cool. And the production one is it's in the oven, but it's fully grown in there. And then we'll show another one in Detroit, an Infiniti in Detroit will be shown. And then we'll really start accelerating and then also the acceptance of EVs, especially as EVs get longer and longer charging range. This is going to be something normal for people in 5 or 6 years. So now everyone needs to find what is the spirituality of each of our EVs. And that's what I'm so excited about, is what is the meaning of our EV versus an EV from Audi or VW or Mercedes. We are looking for what is the DNA of our company.
Right. Actually, if you see this chart here, I think it basically shows what you were just saying, this ramp up of sales, of the percentage of the market that will be EVs by 2040. So as I mentioned, you've been at Nissan for 30 years. How has designing, and you have no gray hair, unlike me, but how has designing vehicles changed in those 30 years?
Oh, almost unrecognizable. And I remember my first weeks and months of working as a Nissan designer in California for a Japanese car company, super high tech. But the engineers were taking points off of the clay model manually, completely with a ruler and an angle plate, and touching the model, reading the number, writing it on a piece of paper, going to this wonderfully large drafting table where they're drawing the car by hand.
Wow.
As the fairly young impulsive designers are already changing the clay model. So you had this feeling of guilt that this poor engineer is working his heart out with this drawing, and the car no longer has any connection to the drawing. And you fast forward to today, where we have handheld digital scanners. And as they come up, they put a couple of pieces of tape so the camera knows where it is in space. Click. And they get a cloud scan, 1 million points of data, send it to engineer, they cut sections, and then they feed back, a lot of no's, usually in the beginning. And but we have this connectivity between design and engineering. We don't have to wait. It's almost immediate. They can tell us, okay, and especially on EVs where aerodynamics is so important. We can go from cloud to aero simulations and all of this stuff. So the dream and the reality are overlapping as far as from the engineer view to us. So it's quite cool, if I could say something so childish.
And with those 8 design studios, you're able to actually work with them in real time through VR. So at your desk, not far from here, you'll be working directly with models in another studio in another country.
Yes, we have taken 360-degree camera photos of our studios in California and London and Brazil and in Chennai, all of them. And I can see what they see as digital and in their context. And as we talk about the designs, we are seeing the same thing, and I never left my desk. I'm very proud to be Cuban American, but the American part is the one who invented the remote control. Right. So I don't need to leave my chair at all, and I can go around the world.
Right. Although you do travel a lot, yes, obviously. So let's talk about how this future, not only of electrification, but autonomy of vehicles, changes the way you think about design and designing cars. Because it would seem to me, as someone who knows extremely little about this, that ultimately now it becomes more about the interior of a car, maybe more than the exterior. Tell me about that, how you think about that differently.
Yeah, sorry. Obviously, we need more space in the interior
with
of the
our
car.
boots, right.
But I think originally that we were under the assumption that the combination of EV's new magic carpet and autonomous was going to be where the big change was. And it is true, actually. The cars that you will see us bring out, they literally have a flat floor. and no bumps.
No, right.
And it allows, when you go into certain levels of autonomous driving, that seats can pivot. You can have a social like this, just slightly turned. These slight adjustments of the body does encourage socializing, but then it also allows you to take control if the car needs you to. But the biggest discovery, I think, is, especially when you deal with driverless cars, is we have found, originally we thought, okay, these are commodities, or at least many people maybe thought they were going to become commodities. Actually, no. I mean, the more you learn about the technologies involved in a driverless car, the more we have felt, and my brothers and sisters in Mitsubishi and Renault as well, that you want to express the company. You're so proud that we can do this achievement, that we want the car to have is a reflection of our company. And so at the end of the day, these little schmoos that don't have character because they don't have an owner, actually, I don't believe it's going to be the case.
Really?
They are the physical manifestation of all the dreams and expertise of a company. We have one of those also in the studio, so I can tell you.
You do?
That,
right.
This is the future. I could never have imagined that 30 years ago.
Right. Again, to the outsider, it would seem like this is kind of an existential moment, because so much, at least, as I growing up in Texas, for example, the brands, and I think this is true everywhere, it's really, the brand says a lot about who you are as a consumer, and what brand you decide to buy and for what reason. And so you think that brands will continue to matter in the autonomous age, that people will still think, I want an Infiniti, or I want an Audi, or I want a BMW?
I think it's going to increase, because we haven't talked too much today about partial ownership, or kind of, cars that you don't own yourself, but right. You buy into.
Right.
So in a context like that, the company is almost more meaningful than the individual cars, because you are buying into a culture. And so as a designer, we must ourselves learn about our company, because this is the culture that we need to amplify and be the ambassadors of when we're designing the car. And it must be clear enough so that when people consider, well, where am I going to put my hard-earned money in a membership to something? I like what Nissan stands for. I like what Infiniti stands for. I want to be part of that. And so we do need to think about that. This is another thing that's moving in the world of the automobile.
I would also imagine that, with the introduction of AI agents like Siri or Alexa, Chinese versions that are coming out, the car's own AI platforms, that must really affect the design of cars too, right? Because potentially there are, I guess, fewer buttons.
Fewer buttons, and also anticipation, where the car eventually starts to understand the things you do naturally, and it will anticipate. It will naturally, when you look over a certain direction, it will know, okay, maybe Alfonso wants another espresso or something like that, and then it'll bring up a menu. And it's going to be a more seamless experience between the things you want to do and the things that the car understands. And that's one aspect of AI. There are some other ones that are super fascinating in my life in the design process. We are doing some experiments with some universities that how we can feed into the supercomputer all the history of wheels, for example. And we can put in there our design strategy. And then we can curate things. We can put in the Eiffel Tower, or we can put in Tokyo Tower, or the Mona Lisa, or a flower. And the supercomputer will try to understand the meaning of those inputs. And then it'll do its own calculation, and then it gives you a wheel based on that. So I'm super excited. We're in the infancy. of this, because the designer will be a creator, but the designer will be a curator, because the computer is going to be giving us things based on what we share with it. And that this kind of is also another avenue that I am extremely excited about.
A number of the conversations that we've had today have revolved around the idea of what happens to work as we know it today with the introduction of more technology, AI, things like that. Does a computer take the job completely of a car designer? You know, are you obsolete at some point as a human?
Maybe as a human before as a car designer. I'm not sure. That's maybe photo finish. I don't have that fear. Like I mentioned, I feel that these are amazing tools that make us bigger than ourselves. The ability to curate, to see if we can make, because an idea sometimes is an overlaying of things in your mind that maybe are rational. But the intersection of those is emotional or exciting or brand new. In a sense, these are kind of unpredictable results. And how to trip the computer. Because humans, we hunger newness. We hunger being a little bit beyond our lives. And so we don't want something that's mathematically an extension of today. We want surprise, we want mystery, we want love, we want all of these things. It's not a rational journey. So,
the computer can't yet provide love.
I think it needs us.
Right. I want to put you on the spot. When do you think we will have fully autonomous vehicles?
It's a bit, you're really putting local governments or countries on the spot more than we. I think we will be ready before... as governments try to understand. And luckily there are many places, Silicon Valley in China and many places that we're accumulating miles and learning. And I'm very proud that it's not known so much, but Nissan actually has more cars on the road today with the first level of autonomous, so within one lane. Turning and stopping and accelerating back. And we learned so much because we're in love with the idea that Japan as a country, it has been the democratization of technology. And Nissan is such a player in this, that when we do something, when we do an electric car, it's for everyone. It's not a $100,000 machine. It's a Leaf, which doesn't cost a third or a quarter of that. Our autonomous driving is for everyone. It's on the Rogue, it's on the Leaf. It's a technology for everyone. So this is the thing that as we learn, because of the amount of cars in operation with these technologies, we build this sense of confidence. Okay, we understand in this scenario the car will do this or needs to do that. And pretty soon we'll have news on the next level. And which we're very excited about.
What will that news be?
I don't like the smile on your face.
I perk up at the idea of news, so can you give us a preview?
Very excited, let's leave it at that. We are, again, it's about bringing things that will make people's lives more enjoyable, but also safer. And allow cities to deal with the realities of congestion and all of that, and especially when the city and the cars become connected.
Right.
Really, we can streamline the human experience.
I think about my city of New York connected with a car, and it actually terrifies me, but I'll take your word for it that it'll be safer. So, Alfonso, our time is up. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for sharing some of your insights today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please stay there for a second. So that's it for Bloomberg's The Year Ahead Conference, our first event here in Japan, which we're very excited about. And thank you to everyone who helped make that possible. Most importantly, our speakers and our moderators. from Bloomberg who joined us here today from around the world. I also want to thank profoundly our sponsors, without whom we could not have pulled this off: Audemars Piguet, Barclays, and Audi. And in fact, I do have the names of the winners of the Audi shuttle service. And forgive my Texas accent, I think I will butcher a few names here. But the winners, I'll just read them out here, are Kazuhiko Otani, Hidesadi Kochi, I hope, Sayuri Shibata, John Kirch, Gordon Hatton, Michael Atkins, Han Lo, Luke Chang, and Raymond Mark. So please meet the Audi folks out front for that. And thank you again to Audi for providing that service. And in fact, everyone here will get a bit of Audi swag on the way out. So thank you to them, and thank you for sticking around. Thank you.